creatives, today we're going to be talking about how to make wedding planners. Now, last week before I got cut off in the video on 4 ways to make money in your planner shop in 2019, I talked about number 4, which was making planners with a purpose, which are really these types of specialty planners, but it's not just wedding planners. You could also make pregnancy planners, baby planners, Bible planners. I mean, there's so many different possibilities. So I will be making videos in the future on each of those different specialties. So today will be all about wedding planners and specifically 3 different types of wedding planners and how you can help stand out in the market from all the other ones that are out there. Hi, I'm Lisa from Pretty Fabulous, and I help online businesses create beautiful digital downloads using Adobe InDesign. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Monday and Thursday, and I do unboxings on Saturday. Today we're going to be talking about wedding planners. First, I'm going to go over the 3 different business models for wedding planners, or 3 different types you can find out there. And then second, we will talk about how you can stand out in the market. Now, the first set of all these wedding planners, I only have 3 that I bought as examples, and I will do a flip through. So if you want to skip ahead to that section, I have timestamps below, but that is not really the main message, and these are pretty long. That's why this video is so long. But the first one is not the one I'm holding up. It is simply the extension of your current business. So when I say your current business, if you are a plannerpreneur, say an Erin Condren, a Bloom Planner, Plum Planners, Happy Planner, you make dated planners that have a monthly, maybe a weekly or a daily format option to them. And all you're doing is adding some inserts in there when you call it a wedding planner. So maybe, you have, there's checklists, right? Like what you should be thinking about a year out, 10 months out, 8 months out. You just sort of insert and weave those into your planner. Now the planner could be dated. Typically it's undated. So because you don't know when somebody's getting married, and then you'd have to keep reprinting these wedding planners. So they can put their own dates in, or you could have a traditional, planner, and at the very end and the sort of appendix, you would have the wedding stuff. So just like I think Plum Paper adds like a blogging section or a fitness section, you would just add a wedding section to the back. So the advantage to that is people who like the look and feel of your planner, as well as the way it's constructed, like the disc planner that the Happy Planner makes. If someone passionately loves that, then when they come out with a wedding planner, that's going to be their thing. They're going to be so excited because they know how that system works. They're familiar with it. They like it, and maybe they like the fonts. And so this is going to be an easy win for you. So that's the first type of planner. This second one is the one that I have right here in front of me, and that is more like a Bible. So this is for somebody who doesn't want to hire a wedding planner because you have a book that is going to tell you everything that you need to do, and these books are typically set up like a cross between a magazine article and checklists. So they're going to have a lot of information, like good meaty information in them. And that's why I got these and not the other ones, because I think you're going to get a lot more value from looking through the checklist and the information that these provide in the flip through versus the ones that are on Erin Condren or Plum Paper, because they're so small and minuscule. Now, sometimes what they do too is they may call it a keepsake. I think that's another additional sort of thing that you can either add to the back of your book or as a separate book, where the bride simply records her thoughts and her memories. The big advantage to that is it is going to be a great solution, especially if you already have some other wedding planning things going on. Like last week's video was on how to do wedding invitations as another revenue line. And 2 weeks before that, I talked about how to be a calligrapher, which could include doing envelopes for weddings. So if you really like this industry, there are so many different ways that you can make money using Adobe InDesign and some of your hand lettering skills that I think, this would be a great addition to the services that you already offer, because you already have that captive audience there. Or maybe vice versa, it helps to attract people to your other services. Now, the third type of planner is this other book that I have here, and this is what I call a specialty bride. Like, this is the anti-bride wedding planner. So if someone who wants to get married but isn't really too into all the fluff and, the flowers, and just wants to make it low key, would totally love this book. Now, there is also like a budget bride, there is the destination wedding bride, or maybe you do it by religion, right? So somebody is going to try to have a traditional Hindi or Muslim or Jewish wedding, and they are not normally of that faith, and so having your planner would be a great addition to them. Or even if they are, they just like having very specific reminders about that situation. So let's recap everything that we learned before we jump into the flip through. The first thing that we learned is that you could just make this a regular extension. This is very minimal, and this is what Erin Condren and a lot of the other ones do, and just add it as a supplement or some inserted pages into your already existing planners, and maybe make it dated or undated. It doesn't really matter. The second way is to have a Bible where it is like everything in the kitchen sink. It has a lot of meaty articles. Maybe you write them, maybe you ask other people to contribute to that. And it has a lot of checklists and worksheets. And sometimes you'll even see people that don't like a traditional planner will just have that in a book called the Book of Lists for people who don't really need the whole 3-ring binder thing. Because as you saw, they are pretty huge, and people like that because they like a really big one. So, maybe some people just want a small book. And then the third type is a specialty bride, which is by religion, or maybe she's on a budget, or she's doing a destination wedding, something specific to that bride's wedding, and you could make a planner just out of that. All right, I hope that gave you some really great ideas and a breakdown for the industry. Let's now, before we do the flip through, talk about how you can stand out. Now, I think the number one way that you can stand out is think about the type of bride that you are targeting, right? And it's not just the specialty, are you targeting a high-end bride who, maybe you have a list of vendors specific to your area, and you can easily find this through a quick search and some research on Yelp, and you can put your list of vendors in there, maybe with some testimonials or pictures or just quotes from Yelp, and that's going to help your planner stand out a lot, because the bride could do the research on her own. Let's face it, anybody could do research. The reason they're buying your particular planner is because you've already done the research for them. Or maybe when they purchase your planner, you have an add-on service where you go and then they can download a ton of different lists for Seattle, for Chicago. Maybe you just hit the major cities. Or you have a list of colors and branding that comes with it, like some special thing that you do that's your normal business, whether it's calligraphy or something else that you offer as a bonus to that bride of something that she might be looking for. I know a huge thing that one of the wedding invitation people do is they always send out a list of suggested font combinations, which I know sounds silly, but just font combinations that you like. You could just do a quick search on Pinterest and do a couple examples, and maybe that's your freebie download to get people to buy or be interested in your planner, because if they're interested in weddings, they might be interested in that free download. So another way that I think you can stand out in the wedding planner business is if you already do customization. We talked about this like Bespoke. So the cover, a lot of the covers are pretty generic. I'm going to say a lot, almost all of them. So if you can have a cover that says Paul and Jen's wedding, or Steve and Mary's wedding, right? Like that's really cute. That's something they like. And if you can go a step further and put it in their wedding colors or potential wedding colors that they're thinking of, that's going to be another huge advantage to help you stand out as well. And to do those covers, I've always told people this, you can do that in Zazzle and Society6. They do offer the ability to offer customizations. Obviously, Etsy does as well. So I hope you found that helpful. Let's go ahead and jump into the flip through so you can see all the meaty stuff that is in all of these planners. Let's start with the knot, and I think this is kind of the Bible on what you should include in a good style if you're going to make a really comprehensive wedding planner. Now, just like every wedding planner, it has over here, who this belongs to and their contact information, and over here you could just pull this out. This is actually a great idea. It's just cardboard there to help keep the pages safe, but we don't need that. So in here we have a little welcome from the editor from the Knot magazine, I'm assuming. Then we have a how to use this binder, and then you have your primary contacts all here in the front because you assume the bride's going to flip to those quite often. And then we have color inspiration, and this is perforated. I don't know if you can see that, and so you can take these out, and they have codes on the back, and then later they have a mood board in here you can put those into. And everything follows the same format, and I think that helps to get people used to what they're going to expect in each section, and also it helps the person creating this. These are basically magazine magazine articles, which makes sense because the knot is a magazine. And then you have some worksheets intermixed into here as well. And remember, I do teach a course on worksheets and on planners, so I think it's a good combination to use those two skills into a wedding planner. And this is kind of an offline Pinterest board for your mood board and your inspiration. And here's where you take those colors from that tab that you perforated and cut out and glue them or tape them over here on colors that you might like. And this is an excellent use of stock photography because this is on magazine paper. It's glossy, it's shiny, it looks nice. If this were to be printed on the white paper, it would look atrocious. And the only person I've ever seen do that is Savor the Success Daily Action Planners, and it just looks terrible. So it's like a huge no-no. Never print stock photos onto anything except glossy magazines or use them digitally. So getting started, top wedding planning tips, and now this is the timeline, and this is usually, I would say, 99.9% of what you find in most wedding planners, and they're inserted into the daily agendas. And she's provided two of these. She has an express one, so it's a little condensed in case you don't have as much time as the other one. They talk about budgets. Again, you have this magazine style with the numbers, and then she has worksheets. And she goes on to give a bunch of worksheets, and then she talks about how to find your wedding planner, magazine style again, and then we have worksheets. And then this is a theme you're going to see throughout, questions to ask your wedding planner, and this is something that goes for every professional you hire. They have some good questions for you and then space for you to write answers. And because this pops out, you could take this, Xerox it, and have a sheet for each wedding planner that you need to ask. So this is a good use of a 3-ring binder, even though I don't like 3-ring binders, but it would be necessary for this particular example. And they also walk you through a contract and what to look for and make sure you have this and that. Another pretty picture, this is the guest list and invitations. And over here we have a magazine style article on how to select your guest list. Then we talk about, there's just a little infographic here with how to decide, and then room for you to make your list. Again, another worksheet. We talk about invitations, same format. You have that magazine style, then you have worksheets and a mood board to help you decide on, design, and then finding your stationer, and then of course questions to ask your stationer that you can take out and copy so you can take this to multiple stationers, contact sheets, and a to-do list. So checklists, these are huge. They actually have, I mentioned this before, they have a separate book just on checklists, parties, and worksheets again. And then we talk about the gift registry, magazine style format, and you have worksheets, bridal gift shower log, and wedding gift log, and then checklist your registry. So again, another really great list, like a checklist. And a pretty picture, this is venue and menu section. And over here we have our top 10 list again, and then we have worksheets. And of course, we have questions to ask the reception venue managers, and a contact sheet, and a to-do checklist, and we have charts, sample seating charts. They have some examples. Then they talk about rentals and lighting, again, magazine style, followed by a checklist, and they talk about the menu, and again, magazine, followed by worksheets. And then finding your caterer, just like before, questions to ask this professional you want to hire, and then their contact sheet. So as you can see, it's kind of a rinse and repeat cycle. You just need to have these major headings, and then this is a to-do list, and then planning your menu, and another checklist for the reception bar, and then they start talking about wedding cakes. And they have a worksheet, and of course they have a mood board for what your wedding cake looks like. And then they start talking just about wedding cakes in general, and then finding your cake baker, and of course questions to ask your cake baker, and the cake baker contact sheet. So you kind of get a nice feel for what this is going to offer you and the format it's asking you to follow. And over here we start talking about dress and accessories, and then they have a top 10 list again. We have a worksheet followed by a mood board page, and then we follow this up with a dress type glossary. And I really like how they used icons here, because remember, this is paper. It doesn't look, if they had printed pictures, so like over here, I actually think that looks terrible. I don't think those should be printed out because this is not glossy, it's white paper. But using these icons really helps a lot. And then finding your bridal salon, and of course questions. We have the questions again, and then we have the contact sheet. And then we start talking about accessories, and they have a checklist, and then they have hair and makeup, and then of course questions to ask your hair and makeup artist. They have a cheat sheet, and now we have the 6-month beauty countdown, so which is separate from before on the wedding countdown, the overall. Then we start talking about bridesmaid dresses, again, your top 10, and we got worksheets, and of course we have the mood board followed by another worksheet, and then how to find the store for the bridesmaids, and then questions, of course, to ask them, and then a contact sheet and a checklist. And then we start talking about the men and what they should be wearing. And we have worksheets for the men, how to find a shop for the man, and then questions to ask that store, and then information here for you to collect their contact sheet, and a to-do list checklist. Now we're moving into ceremony and bridal party, and this has your top 10 list about the ceremony. This is another worksheet, talks about writing vows. And over here we have finding your ceremony site and officiant, and again, more information and questions, of course, to ask them, and then their contact information. You get a nice to-do list for that ceremony site, and then they go right into ceremony music with another top 10 and worksheets, and then the contacts, your appointments to talk to them, and what to ask them when you see them. Again, another sheet you can take out in Xerox, and of course the contact sheet for who you end up hiring, and a to-do list for them. Then we start talking about the bridal party, and we have, again, a magazine article, followed by worksheets, a checklist. So this is a cheat sheet that you could give to your honor attendant, and then of course a bridal, it's the back part, and then the parents cheat sheet for the bride. And this is really great because it gives you an idea of what you want people to do, so it also has worksheets for others, and then the contact sheet for the bride and the groom and the family, and of course the guests because they need to stay somewhere, and then the party to-do list. And then they start talking about transportation with a this is just 5 instead of 10 list, and of course these cute icons. And then they start talking about what to ask your car company, and then a cheat sheet for the car company, as well as a to-do list. Now over here in photos, we talk about hiring a photographer, so we have our top 10 list again, and this is followed by worksheets for the photographer, and of course a mood board, because anything that has design or a visual aspect seems to have a mood board with it, and then how to find your photographer, questions to ask them, and then their contact information you can put on here, a checklist for your photographer, and then of course the videographer, which is new, and a worksheet for them, how to find them, and of course questions to ask your videographer, and then their contact information, followed by a videographer checklist. And then we start talking about music, about hiring your DJ, nice top 10 list. And over here we start talking, we have some worksheets, and then finding the band or the DJ, and then questions to ask them, and a contact sheet, and followed by a to-do list. So we got 2 more to go, flowers and decor. So a nice top 10 list over here, followed by a worksheet and mood board, and then a bouquet glossary. You have these beautiful icons, again, much nicer than pictures because it's on white paper, and then how to find your florist, and then questions to ask them, and then a cheat sheet for their contact information, and followed by a checklist. So hopefully by now you see the pattern. And then of course the big day and beyond. This is the very last section. We have a top 10 list over here, and followed by a contact list and a wedding weekend accommodations and timeline. And so they have a nice organized list on how the day should run for you, and who to tip, as well as an emergency bag. Now these are all very specific to a wedding, and then your honeymoon contact sheet, and how to book your honeymoon. And then over here we just have credit at it. So this is the end, and the knot cheat sheet. So they have some downloads for you as well over here. And then this right here is just sort of placeholders for you to slip in business cards, assuming of course they're all the same size. And at the back it just says, congratulations, you made it. And there is one last sheet back here. I shouldn't say sheet, it's plastic paper protector. You only get one though, and for some reason it's upside down, so you might want to flip that around. And that's pretty much it. And over here it does say you can peel off the back, I guess if you just want a blue background instead of this advertising sticker they have on the front. And over here, the spine, I don't know if you can see that, it just says the knot wedding planner. Maybe it's out of focus. There we go. And it has picture, and it's glossy, so the picture looks nice, and that's it. Now this planner tries to be everything to the bride. It's trying to be an organizer, a journal, and a keepsake for an entire year. I don't know what that is. That just kind of came with it when I bought it at Barnes & Noble. You have a pocket folder in the front, which honestly looks a little cheap and weird next to the rest of this. They would have been better off using this space for text or something else. They have this, it's sort of like a little piece of packing slip to try to stop these binders from ruining the inside cover, but it didn't work. I don't know if you can see that. There's definitely grooves inside of there. And I did buy this from Barnes & Noble, so who knows how long it was sitting in storage or how it got there. Now, just like the Knot book, they've done a beautiful job of using stock photography because they are using a glossy, thick cardstock. They've decided to just leave this green. It's kind of like a Tiffany's green. Again, I don't know what that is. Now the pages here are much thicker. The pages in the Knot were very thin, and I imagine if you wrote on them with a marker, they would bleed through. These are a little bit thicker. They're not cardstock thick, but it's just a sturdier paper. You have a table of contents over here, and then we go right into an introduction. Another green sheet, and our first section is inspiration and resources, and they've decided to use the back of the cardstock instead just as a checklist. Now over here is some free form space for you to sort of write notes, write about your fantasy wedding. Again, it's trying to be like a journal, and I have to remember the pages are thick, they're not stuck together. Your personal style, your wedding wish list, and inspiration. Because it's like a journal, you get a blank page over here. Now this goes into a lot of statistics and, I think just popular top 10 lists that you'll see if you Google things. So this has some bridal magazines. It is suggesting, and as well as websites and different areas for resources online you can go. And then it has this cute little list of movies to get you in the mood for wedding planning, new traditions to consider, timing, again, with the statistics on how often when people get married or how often weddings, I guess, occur, a little Gaelic rhyme. There are 2.3 million weddings each year in the U.S. This is such a good industry to get into, guys. All right, where to marry, restaurants, top 10 popular locations to consider, feeling extravagant. They have a top 10 list. Now, these are not, I almost want to say, I feel like this list was created in Microsoft Word because the layout is not pretty like the Knot, which is more of a magazine layout. This very much just reminds me of something you could create in Microsoft Word on your own. So the destination wedding, and over here, just sections for notes, and then international ways to say, I love you. You have a section here called to do. Again, they just use this for a description on the back. And then we talk about when we wed, like Saturdays, December, June, they're going through that again. And then they talk about the budget and then 10 ways to keep costs down. And they have percentages here on your costs, like how much of your budget should go to each area. So that is helpful. Now, I would say a best use is to combine a lot of these fun facts with the more organized checklists in the Knot if you were going to come up with something. Pre-wedding expenses, personal expenses, reception. Now you get into your timeline. So this is 6 months to a year. This is 5 months. This is 4 months, 2 months, 6 weeks, 1 month, 2 weeks. And then we jump over to 1 week, and then we have the day before, and we have the actual day, and then the ceremony program. Again, the other book the Knot had suggested times. This one does not. The itinerary, the rehearsal dinner, and then the day after get together. So not a lot of information on how to plan those, just information on storing, the once you've made a decision. And this is the calendar section, and I actually strongly dislike this calendar section. So these are undated calendars, which you normally find in many wedding planners, but this one starts on a Monday and has Saturday, Sunday, which I think more of a maybe a work calendar, or when I'm looking at not even Microsoft Outlook. Usually Sunday is over here. So that is really weird to me. Now, what it's doing is it's giving you, I think, about 12 months. And so this says 12 months before the wedding, then 11, then 10. So you have to date these all by yourself. And then finally, these are all the same, in case you're wondering. You get over here to the very back where it says 1 month after the wedding. And this is 1 month before the wedding. So it's a little confusing because where is the month of the wedding? It's not in here. And then over here we have after the wedding, thank you notes for your new home. And then we move into the next section, which is bride and wedding party. So I would say that's a great example of what not to do for a calendar. Over here we have the dress. And it's just telling you to go through magazines and make some appointments, how choosing a designer, and nothing in here on, questions to ask them. They have some rhymes in here for you, just fun stuff, dress shopping, the final dress. And again, not a lot of help with how to make the choice, just kind of just space for you to take your final list of what you're going to buy. So over here we have the accessory shop, we have bride's attire, we have beauty and health, we have attendance, and we have honor attendant, we have the emergency day wedding kit that you see a lot, and then we have bridal attendant information, we have the bridal shower, the bachelorette shower party, we have thank you gift ideas for attendance, we have the flower girl, 1 and 2, and then a ring bearer. We have the groom duties over here and their attire. We have information on rings. We have choosing a birthstone, and then the jeweler information. Again, not how to choose a jeweler, just information for you to record that. Wedding attire for the best man, the groomsmen, and the ushers. And then finally we move into toasts and suggested resources. And then this is kind of nice. They have areas for what are some favorite toasts that people have done in the past. And then the parents' information, which I guess if you're getting married, I would think I already have that, but maybe not. And then helpers. And then they have a list like we saw in some of the other ones, like things that other people can do. But not really a space. Oh, there's a space on who it's been assigned to. And then over here, location and vendors. Again, this is a 3-hole punch, so you could easily open this up and then make copies and then pop new sheets in. Information over here, the wedding ceremony site, and we have destination wedding duties, the officiant. Again, no information on how to choose one. This is more just collection of information once you've kind of made a decision. The floor plan was over there, wedding coordinator planner, invitations, and then the printer, how many you ordered, the calligrapher, again, not how to choose one, just information on your calligrapher you can keep over here, the music, and then the reception music, songs, and I like this. They've given you some different ideas for songs. Reception, musician, DJs. Again, no help in how to pick one, just information on how to record who you hired. Dancing customs, some international customs over here, and then we jump right into the menu. And we have the caterer information, rentals, ceremony, table service, the cake, a little information, not a lot. I would say this is more of hey, here's some tasks for you to go out and do the research yourself instead of actually doing it for you. The topper, the baker, the groom's cake. We have cakes past and present, so just little tidbits about Jamaicans, Korean, Chinese. So I had suggested before making international books, but this one just kind of combines everything. So this tells you the different flowers in season. I do find that very useful. Budget, choosing a floral designer, different shapes you could have. It would have been nice if they had put some actual shapes in there, but because I think this was made in Microsoft Word, they weren't able to do that. The florist, flower order, what you ordered, the ceremony, and then they talk about the meaning of the different flowers, and then flowers around the world, again, international aspect. We have photography, we have different shots that you may want to take. videographer, just who you hired, again, not help with how to hire them, information on transportation, to and from the reception, parking, security, tip. So they do have a tiny little tip guide, and over here, travel arrangements, and then wedding night and honeymoon and ways to save and romantic honeymoon dinner. I really like this with the popular destinations, honeymoon traditions and love, and then your wedding bed, by the numbers, honeymoon itinerary, and then some just folklore on fertility, if that's something important for you. And then over here, guests and gifts. So we have a little section here on the invitation list, too many on the list. To me, this is kind of odd that it is at the very, very end, but then we have guest lists, guests, and I guess you would, I don't know why you'd want this much information on each guest, but it says duplicate if necessary. And then you have favors, and then what favors you're going to get, who's supplying them, international favor ideas. Again, this book is really great for, little tidbits about what they're doing around the world. Wedding gift registry, and then where you're registered, but not really help in choosing a registry like the other ones did. This is accommodation. So now we've jumped again over to hotel. So I think that's a little discombobulated. And then finally, the journal and keepsake section, because remember, it wanted to be a keepsake for you. And over here, just again, free form for you to write your story, the proposal, your engagement celebration. Not a lot of pictures, which I would think is more of, when I think of a keepsake, you would want to keep those. Vows, you guys can write your vows down. And then information on the shower. And again, it's all free form, so it's more like a diary, the bachelorette party. And then over here, we have these plastic sheet protectors for business cards over here. And then I guess these would be maybe postcards, or someone has some odd shaped business cards that you can put inside there. And then over here, maybe you could put a proposal along with the business card for the person that gave you the proposal. So this opens up like a Ziploc, or maybe it doesn't. I can't get it. Over here, so you can put stuff in there. And then these are half sheets where you can put information. It looks just like on one side. These aren't two-sided. And then a full sheet protector, a second one, and then again that sort of cheesy, cheap folder thing, which again, this isn't, so the problem I have with these cheesy folders is they're not full length, and they're paper and they're glued in there, so they're kind of flimsy, and they're not 8.5 by 11. So most pieces of paper are 8.5 by 11, so you can't even fit an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper in there. And then of course, just a pretty picture over here on the back. Now we have the anti-bride wedding planner, which is number 3, which is that specialty planner. It could easily have been the budget bride, or maybe the traditional Muslim bride, or anything else like that. So in here you have just a sheet that I think this part is folded over so that you can use it as a bookmark to kind of keep your place. And we have, instead, it's not a traditional planner. This is more just a book that happens to be spiral bound. It does have a couple worksheets in it. You have a table of contents here, and it's kind of short and sweet and to the point. You have your first tab, which is getting started, and this does have a file folder. Each of these tabs are set up like this with a file folder in the same pink with the blue, purple overlay. So we have chapter 1, getting started, fantasy to reality, and we have instructions, and then you'll see all throughout this anti-bride tips everywhere you look inside of this book. Let me see if my focus. And then over here we have our first worksheet or area to actually write stuff, and then where to skimp, where to spend, and we have a timeline checklist, and we get times, we get actually to-do lists with checklists for last minute, down to the wine, and then down to the wire, not the wine, and then wedding style worksheets, and over here we have setting priorities, other things to ask yourself. We have an expense worksheet, questions for the event planner. We have who's invited, and we have, finally we get to our final guest list, and then over here we have a section for notes. Now this is the first book we've seen which just has area for free-form notes. A lot of them have these anti-bride tips down here at the bottom. Now the next section is spaces and places, and again that file folder, and offbeat places and plans for places, costume camaraderie, things to consider when choosing a space, pros and cons of each of these different types of spaces. And then we go from, this is ideas from She Event Design. Now, injected throughout here, she's asked a lot of experts to give quotes or advice that she has used, and I think that's an excellent way to, get more expert information, as well as have people who are going to be actively, suggesting this book because they're in it. Ceremony site worksheet, reception site worksheet, 1, 2, and 3, some areas down here in each of them for notes. So you'll notice each page has this cute little engagement ring outlining the page number. Big day schedule. Now this is a little different from that first one, the knot, that actually gave you time, so you kind of knew how long everything took. This is just, I guess, it's assuming it's going to be low key, minimal, and it won't need that much planning. Guest accommodations, where they can stay, and then other nearby lodging, space again for notes. And then it's your party. Over here we have the next chapter, which is chapter 3, with the file folder, bringing anti-bride style to your wedding ambiance, do-it-yourself invites, and then invitations and stationery, anti-bride tips, selecting a printer, and then flowers, centerpieces, and then anti-bride ambiance. And over here, flowers and worksheets. So it's assuming this anti-bride wants to save money because it's not really a high priority, and maybe she wants to DIY a lot of things on her own. Choosing a florist, and again, tips and tricks from Floral Design Pro Jolie Faye of Celebration. So Jolie Faye is obviously helping to advertise this book. We have music, we have pros and cons. Again, I really like that. Questions for the talent. Now she's going to assume you're not going to DJ your own wedding, even though you probably could make a Spotify playlist. And then we have photography, and we have delegation patrol. So she has actually started out a list for you on what you can start delegating, who you can assign it to, and then some space for some extra. Now, if you wanted to assign extra things, you don't really have a space for that here because it is not set up like a 3-ring binder. It's just it's wire bound, and it just is not something that can be opened and closed. Gift registry, and then she has registry tips here at the bottom. I know I went quick. Contact info, questions for your registry consultant, announcement worksheet, and then notes, and some anti-bride tips again. And then we move right into the next chapter, which is Eat, Drink, and Be Married, another file folder. And over here inside chapter 4, she has some appetizer ideas. She has tapas and tiramisu, catering contracts, strategies, again, another expert, and then things to include in your bar, and choosing a caterer, questions to ask. Again, very good suggestions. And then over here, spaces for maybe the top 3 that you've interviewed. And then here you have information on the wedding cake, and some ideas and questions to ask the baker, and then how to choose one, and then a section for notes with some anti-bride tips. Now, I just love this design. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this is perfect use, even though this is glossy, so they could have put a photo. They wanted to keep the same theme where it's kind of fun and cartoony, and I think it works great for this style and theme. So another file folder, chapter 5, Sparkle Plenty, putting your loveliest face forward. And over here, they have some suggestions, as well as, of course, a kit with the checklist, and some more experts are weighing in. We have information here on different beauty appointments, and again, I think this is our first spot where we can actually use kind of like a mood board and put some pictures, paste or glue those in. Notes section, as usual. And over here, second to last, Dress to Thrill. So here in chapter 6, they're going to start talking about the wedding dress, and some commandments, a cute little list. We have a questionnaire, and I think this is a questionnaire for you. Oh yeah, what best describes your favorite clothing? So not for a wedding dress consultant. And then they talk through some of the different styles, and they go through another expert and some ideas, as well as some gifts for your bridesmaids. And then we go into the bridesmaid's dress, as well as a mood board over here for some different options. And over here, this is the first time that we have a grid, and I'm guessing this is because this is the dress section. Maybe you want to post some dress ideas or draw some sketches of your own. And the last section is parties galore, and another file folder, and this is talking about throwing the engagement party, rehearsal dinners, and beyond. So we talked about the showers, the bachelorette party, the bridesmaids party, the rehearsal dinner. I mean, are you getting so expensive? Who wants to get married? Party planners over here, shower and bachelorette party, and brainstorming sheet, and then you have some sections for notes. And I have, oh wait, it's not second to last. That was covering it up. And now we're finally at the last section, which is the honeymoon. And again, file folder over here. And this says relaxing after the big day, planning for the send-off, words of wisdom. We have fat-free packing, so it kind of tells you what you should take with you, how to plan and budget for your honeymoon, and some tips over here. And then it goes right into a notes section. Now this phone book at the back, now in the knot, this was in the very front, but what they've done instead is they put all of your contacts and consolidated them into one area here in the very back of the book. Videographer, dress, and then finally, this is actually where you can keep your business cards. Now, before we had seen those white or those clear plastic protectors, this, I don't know if you can see that, is perforated so that you can kind of just slide those business cards into each of those sections, and you get 2 pages for that. And then a bookmark, like you saw before, it tricked me into thinking the book was over, that you could put anywhere and kind of keep your place, so you have one in the front and one in the back. That's a wrap. So I hope you found that useful. I hope you got a lot of great ideas. I'm super excited to see your wedding planner. And if you are unsure on how to lay out your planner or you want any help at all, make sure to sign up for Planner Academy. That is my premium planner course online. Also, if you're just starting out and you're not sure, you can also sign up for the free Planner 101 course that just kind of talks you through all the different formats and how you can start your own planner business. All right, I hope everyone's having a great week, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.